the ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom, returns in Project M. Peach, during her introduction in Melee, was one of the best characters in competitive Melee. She was ranked number 6 in the A tier, mainly because of her tanky attributes and her defensive playstyle. Many top players picked up the character, including Armada, who is considered one of the best Melee players of all time. However, during the transition to Brawl, Peach was dropped to number 19 on the tier list, landing in the C- rank. Still not a horrible character, but a considerable drop considering her last ranking tier was in the A tier in Melee. Like most Melee prominent characters in Project M, Peach remains with her Melee toolset intact, with her defensive attributes being reborn in Project M. Things like float cancelled aerials are back, and her crouch cancel game and her great recovery all make a return. Peach was ranked number 14th on Project M's final tier list, landing at the A- tier, which still means she's a capable character in tournament. Peach has been mained by one of the best players in Project M, currently right now, which I would say is Maokai, who also mains Sheik, showing that the character can be played at a high tier levels and still win tournaments. She ironically is actually placed higher than a majority of the characters that are placed higher than her in Melee, like the Spaceys and Jigglypuff, for example. And mainly that is because Project M is a game where floatier characters have an easier time in the meta, and that's mainly because the floatier characters are generally more viable in Project M compared to Melee. That means a character like Peach can do well in the meta, and in fact, out of all the Melee-centric characters in Project M, Peach is one of the characters that does the best while still remaining true to her classic Melee design. Now let's talk about Peach's moveset in Project M. Compared to Brawl, Peach has had really bad turnip attributes where they would disappear upon hitting shield. They had the worst physics compared to how godlike of a projectile they were in Melee, and Project M brought out that side of that character again. And actually, starting with Project Plus, Peach can now use her down B in the air and throw her opponent. It's fairly new and kind of gimmicky of an option, but I would consider it a buff considering the previous move did absolutely nothing. Float canceling appears again, and it is Peach's most effective way at reducing landing lag for her new powerful aerials. It's her bread and butter go-to technique in Melee, and here it makes its tried and true return to Project M. This allows Peach's pressure game to be on its A game because it's one of her safest ways of performing aerials in her kit. Also, because of this change, this means she can double jump cancel similar to Melee as well, as this technique has universally returned in Project M. Also can't really talk about Peach without bringing up her down smash, which is a crazy strong move in Project M, especially if your opponents are dumb enough to DI into the move. Her forward air makes a return as well, and her great dash attack, both really good options for Melee. Some other smaller changes for the character can be her retaining her Brawl side B and her Brawl up tilt, which are both better than the Melee versions of those moves. And her forward smash now works in a sequential order after one swing, being a tennis racket, golf club, and a frying pan. Peach is a great character if you played her in Melee because she's mainly the same character with added buffs from Brawl and Project M. If you like defensive characters with strong punishments and having a really tanky character, Peach is really good at that. She's quite floaty, I would say, and not very mobile of a character, so it can make approaching very difficult for Peach, but she's really good at responding to like an opponent's mistake. If the opponent messes up, Peach is really good at punishing that. Peach, I would say, isn't really good at, let's say, getting back at stage at times, or dealing with pressure, for example, can be difficult at times for Peach. And she's not very mobile, but at the same time, she does very well in the current meta of Project M, and she's very defensive, very tanky, lives a long time, so she's not a bad character at all. In fact, I would say out of all the Melee veterans, she's definitely transferred over to Project M, probably the best, up there with like maybe Captain Falcon and Sheik. So if you've played her in Melee, then I would definitely recommend trying her out in Project M because she feels really true to the character.